And welcome and good morning. We're back again with the Radical Vision for Disability show, where we understand how important it is for our caregivers to know what we're thinking. Sometimes, as people with disabilities, we want that person that's helping us to understand some things that we can't always communicate. So there are times where we literally cannot communicate, but there are other times where we wish that they would know something, whether it's a certain thing to eat or a certain thing to drink or whatever that is. We have the tendency to not always share that with our caregivers, but I have somebody that's coming on today that is going to be phenomenal when it comes to helping us all understand what that caregiver is going through, and also what the person with the disabilities is going through. So without any further ado, I want to bring on our special guest of the day, Mr. David Blake. Hey, good morning, David.
Good morning, Brian. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and this is such a great topic that most people have dealt with or are going to deal with at some point in their life.
Yeah, I think everybody at some point is going to deal with this, whether they're the person with the disability, tough word, or the caregiver. So what have you found? And so back up a little bit. What did you go through, and from a caregiver perspective, as well as from a person with disabilities perspective?
Well, that's a great question. I've been on both sides. Uh, I spent a lot of years as a caregiver for friends, uh, family. When I was 14, my dad had a tragedy that left him bedridden for years. Well, he recovered. So I learned at an early age that caregiver end and the stress involved, the time involved, and the needs from that side. Now, fast forward many years, and I became the patient and the person with the disability. And for the last 7 years, I've been going through the other side of it where I've got to accept the care. I had to see it from the other side and be the good patient, which I am not. I have to admit, I'm a much better caregiver than I am a patient. And seeing that from both sides, there is a lot of stress, a lot of fear, a lot of anger, a lot of unknown on both sides.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about. If you don't mind sharing what your situation it has been for the last 6 or 7 years, and what those stressors and anxiety and all that. What are some of those things to help us?
Well, for me, I actually slipped on the ice, broke my ankle, and that wasn't the worst part. That was the first caregiving. What a lot of us go through. A broken bone. We're off our feet for a couple of weeks, and it kind of sucks. But for me, it went further when I went in for surgery for that broken bone and ended up getting poisoned. I got a recall drug that actually gave me all the symptoms of a massive stroke, MS, and many other things, Parkinson's, without actually having those diseases, but I had all of these symptoms. So learning to walk, talk, hold myself up. This has been a 7 year um, endeavor, adventure to relearn all of those things and the frustrations of from literally one day being able to do it.
Your audio is crackling.
Interesting. How about now? Is it
Worse.
sound any better? Worse, really. Let's see. Let's try it.
I can't hear it all now. That sounds great, but I can't hear you at all.
All right. Muted
There we
two
go.
things at once. All
There
right.
we
Are
go.
we better? Good.
While you're doing that, I'll say hello to Mr. Mark Gruhl. Good morning, Mark. It's good to see you this morning. And our friend Linda Kazera from West Virginia. I love that. That's good to see you this morning as well, Linda. But I'm sorry, David, you were saying?
Yeah, I'm not sure where the mic cut out, but
It went static again.
Where? I've
right
got
off.
every green light on my end.
Huh. Well, I can barely hear you.
That's interesting. Well, I guess all we can do is try and adjust the best we can. And I've got green lights. I've got everything looking good on this end.
That's good.
All right. I'm good.
I don't know what you did, but it
Well,
worked.
we'll play it by ear.
Yeah.
You know, the technical aspects, and this fits into the caregiving, learning the technical aspects of being the caregiver and being the patient as well. You know, trying to figure out what helps, what tools to use. I'm not sure where my mic cut out, but 7 years ago, I slipped on the ice, broke my ankle, and ended up in surgery where I got a recalled tainted drug that gave me all the symptoms of a stroke, MS, Parkinson's, and so many other things. So I went literally from in one day from walking, talking, being a normal day-to-day functions of what I was used to within hours not being able to hold myself up, having to have somebody else do all of those things I could do yesterday for me in such a short period of time. And that's been a 7-year adventure to overcome, to fix, to work through. And see, in that 7 years, as I mentioned earlier, I know I've been a terrible patient because I want to do it. I want to be back where I was. I want to feel like I felt before. And it's sometimes hard for the patient to not grasp that you can no longer do something. And that frustration of holding a glass when that's something that you learned at 2 and 3 years old, and now suddenly you can't do. Standing, walking, going across the room to grab something that was simple yesterday and now suddenly the hardest thing in the world. So there's fear. There, you know, am I going to be able to function the way I used to? Am I going to overcome this quickly? What residuals, what else might go wrong? And then there's the guilt and stress of what you're doing to the people around you. That feeling of I'm putting all this burden on other people. And I understand and I can see as the patient that the other people are picking up slack, sometimes even doing more than they have to because they feel they need to do more. They feel they need to step up. So both sides are dealing with this same situation in so many different directions that it causes more stress. It causes a lack of communication. Neither side wants to broach the topic and ask the questions or come to a cohesive idea of how to help the other person. What can I do as the patient to make your day easier? What can you do as the caregiver to give me what I need in that moment? And sometimes it's hard to articulate on both sides because you don't want to be a burden. You don't want to stress the other person even more. And you're frustrated because you're not able to do it yourself.
So how do we get past that?
Well, there's a lot of ways. Starting out with being okay. Have the tough conversation one time. Obviously, you've got to pick your moment because it's not always the best time to bring that up. But come up with a system. Hey, as the caregiver, it needs to be okay that I tell you I need a moment. Uh, and as the patient, it needs to be okay to say, I'm having a bad day. I'm having a bad 30 minutes. Uh, Give me that time and, we'll work through this together. Opening those lines of communication earlier, and not just accepting well, this is how it is. I just have to A, B, and C. And again, as I've been the caregiver and the one needing care, I see both sides now. I understand that as the caregiver, you don't want to put any more on the patient. You don't want to ask any more of them. So it's hard to ask them to clarify or to give you better direction when they're going through so much already. So you tend to suck it up. You want to just make the patient feel better and you'll take care of yourself later. Well, too many times later never comes. And the stress builds and the anxiety builds. And then you become the patient yourself if it goes too far.
Yeah, so this is great. You've approached a lot of this from the patient perspective, but from like you were just saying there with the caregiver's point of view, how do you make sure that you maintain your self awareness, your physical fitness, all that? How do you make sure that you stay on target with that? Do you have to have a team? Do you have to do something different? What is that?
Well, a team definitely helps. Now, I understand not everybody has a team, but there is usually more of a team there than you expect. As a caregiver, especially of a family member, a spouse, you feel it's your obligation that you have to take this on yourself, and it's nobody else's job to do it. And in reality, other people are willing to help. They're there. But we need, as a caregiver, to ask. Until we can open those lines of communication and tell people, hey, I need help. Or can you give me 30 minutes every Thursday so I can go to the gym or go for a walk or do whatever you need? Scheduling, communication, and just the acceptance that whatever situation you're in, you do need your own time, your own life, and your own schedule. So working that out with not only the patient, but those around you to give you a hand. Maybe it's not caregiving, but it's visiting for 20, 30, 60 minutes while I run out and go for a walk. Or hiring somebody that can caregive during that time. There are teams available. I understand finances have a big issue in that, but there is more than family and friends available out there. And when it comes to finances, caregivers, again, don't want to spend the money to get another caregiver to then give themselves a break.
Yeah. So, what would you say to Linda's comment here?
She is 100% correct. On both sides, the caregiver and the patient, it's hard to ask for help. It's hard to accept the help. But understanding that we are people too, and if we get too run down, too in the weeds in the situation, it becomes harder to ask for help. And it also compounds the problem. You know, now you're further drained. You're maybe getting ill yourself because you've neglected or that stress has built up, or you haven't eaten for days because your mind is on the patient. Accepting that we too need the help as the caregiver as much as the patient. The stress on the caregiver is often far exceeding that of the patient. Not in every case, but in many cases, because the caregiver is taking on the responsibility of two people. They're taking on the responsibility and the stress, the tasks of the person who is disabled.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you accept the help, accept help that's the first step, like Linda says.
Yes, and breathe. Breathe. Take that moment once you accept the help and knowing that it's out there. We all tend to feel that it's my job, it's my duty. There are so many words you can use to say, this is mine, and we hold on to it. And the longer you do it, the tighter you hold. But the moment you realize other people are out there, breathe. Take that second to just let yourself understand you have help.
And don't
You're
feel
not alone.
guilty. And don't feel guilty or ashamed that somebody else is helping you. Feel
Yes.
relieved because
Right.
other people want to help, right?
They do. They do. And I've told a lot of people this, but if you, whatever your job is in your day-to-day, let's say you're a computer scientist and somebody suddenly tells you, okay, today I'm making you CEO of a totally different company. That's a job you weren't expecting. That's a job you weren't trained for. And suddenly it was thrust upon you. Do you have guilt in that moment that you can't do that job? No, you have stress that you don't understand that job. You have fear that you're not going to be able to do that job. But the guilt and the pressure are not yours. Somebody else put you there in a situation you were never trained for. Now take it in the caregiving. If you didn't go to medical school or you weren't a firefighter or a police officer or somebody that was trained in caring for others in that way, caring for that injury, there is nothing to be guilty about or to feel that you need to do it all yourself when you weren't trained. And I guarantee you didn't sign up for that in that moment. You may have accepted it, but people don't sign up to say, hey, give me a tragedy to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. All great advice, David. How can we bring this home for people and to help them? Because I know there's so much that you have to offer, but from your experiences, what else is there that people may be wondering about that they haven't asked yet?
Well, there's a lot. Number one, whether you're the patient, the disabled, or the caregiver, um, let the other person know that you understand their side of it, that you love them, that you know that they're going through something that can't fully be understood, but you're there for them and you're willing to work out a schedule, a communication, and open that door so both of you understand, oh, that's a big sigh of relief when the other side knows this is a lot for me to handle, um, rather than trying to hold it in and hide it. Beyond that, um, you know, as a caregiver, we tend to rush to the aid, um, not even realizing that the person needing the aid also needs a moment. So, from the standpoint of the disabled, from the standpoint of the person who's injured, sometimes we just need a moment to collect ourselves. It's human nature to want to help somebody and rush in and patch them up and make them feel like nothing happened. For example, with what I've gone through, I've fallen down a lot. And sometimes, it's on a sidewalk or in the grass, and sometimes it's crossing a street in traffic. Well, crossing a street in traffic, sometimes you need to be scooped up and taken out of the path. But people react, strangers, friends, family, they react the same way if you fall in your living room, because mentally they don't want to see you go through that. So they rush over and they try and pick you up and put you back in perfect order. When in reality, give them a moment, give them the chance to say what they need and take a breath. Sometimes what they need is to get up on their own, and not always be assisted. Beyond that, the best thing I can suggest for both sides is create a vision. Where do you want to be? Maybe you're in this situation right now, but where do you want to get to? As the patient, what outcome are you expecting? What do you want to get back to? What, for me, I tell people, or especially healthcare professionals, the patient doesn't always want to get back to where they were. They want to get further. They were on a different path before whatever happened happened. They want to get there. They want to get to their finish line, not just back to where they were. And the same holds true for the caregiver. Where were you headed before all this happened? Set your vision on that. It'll help pull you through. It will give you something to look forward to as the caregiver and the patient. And it'll bring an ease, a different state of mind. For me, I created the flip flop philosopher. And for what that is to me is a place I always want to be. The Caribbean, in the sun, Florida, in the Florida Keys, on a boat, scuba diving, around coconut and palm trees. So I focused on getting there. And that's where I am. I moved from the cold Midwest, where it was difficult to recover from, to sunny Florida, where I can do therapy indoors, outdoors, on the beach, and then start doing my daily activities with my feet in the sand. That's part of the flip flop philosophy. Whether you like it cold, hot, or indoors or out, start creating that now. Start bringing that atmosphere into your day-to-day. You know, if you can't get out because you're being cared for, can you bring the sun in, open the windows? Can you order some decor that makes you feel like you're at the beach? Start listening to that kind of music. Put scents around the house that smell like citrus fields and sunshine. Start bringing that atmosphere in, and you'll start taking yourself to that place.
That's great advice, David. I love it. Before we go, I'm gonna ask you for one last thought. But before we do that, I want to encourage people to share this video out with as many people as you can, because that makes the community larger, and that's really what we want to do. So that's great if you'll do that, and then also put a picture of you winking in your timeline, and that winking is my wink. There you go, the wink. You got it. Help us to all understand what makes us unique and how we can serve other people with that. And then what else? I think that's it. So if there's anything else, if there's ever anything else, by all means, let us know. Oh, and put a hashtag live in the comments for where you're coming in from. Same thing. If you're listening on replay, put a hashtag replay and where you are. So thank you for that. Now, David, one last question. If I'm new to caregiving, what's the first thing that I want to do?
Wow. There's a lot of firsts. Number one, breathe.
Hold on. You're breaking up.
Oh, no. How about now?
Better, I think.
Okay. Number one thing, breathe.
Number one is breathe. I'm going to repeat it for you. I'm going to repeat it for you because you're still breaking up a little bit. So number one is breathe.
Take the moment and understand whatever you're going through is temporary. You will get through it. Breathe. Take care of yourself. Find a moment in your day just for you. The other person understands, and everyone else around you understands. You need to eat, you need to care for yourself, and you need to rejuvenate. But it all starts with taking that moment and taking in oxygen. Breathe.
Awesome. We've got a few more comments here. I want to make sure we get them ran by us. So Linda says, yes, patience is definitely needed. And vision forward is where we all need to be and want to be. And then Amron coming in from Powell, Ohio. So thank you very much for coming on, Amron. I appreciate that. I appreciate all of you. This has been great. David, anything else you want to leave them with?
Keep your questions coming. Take care of yourself, whether you're caregiving or not. If you're getting this message, we all need that moment in our lives just for us. It's okay. You can do it. I give you permission.
Thank you, David. I'm gonna let you go back to the green room, and while you're there, you have as many of the peanuts as you want. But I will be there in a second.
You've got it. The snacks in here are great.
Yeah, good. We got them stocked. Wow. Yeah, so David Blake is quite a guy. He has quite a wealth of knowledge and experiences that he's gone through. So I'm just appreciative of having him on. But coming up next Monday, who do we have? We have Bob Bernards is coming on, and then Tuesday is Lisa Konecki. And Lisa Konecki is actually the one that wrote this book, the book called Be an Inclusion Ally. And Lisa is phenomenal. So I'm looking forward to having her back, as well as Bob. I think it'll be great. So if there's ever anything I can do for any of you, please let me know. I'd love to do that. And as always, keep one eye on the road. Take care. Bye.